When a massive killer whale became stranded on a New Zealand beach, dozens of people surrounded the creature. What happened next left everyone on that beach completely speechless as they witnessed something none of them expected to see in their lifetime. The sun had barely risen over Marlborough Beach, New Zealand, when local residents encountered an alarming sight. There, sprawled across the sand, lay an enormous orca, its black and white body glistening in the early light. The gravity of the situation was immediately apparent. This killer whale was now helpless on land. Word spread quickly through the small coastal community, and people knew they had to act fast. As calls for help went out, more onlookers gathered on the beach, their faces a mix of concern and disbelief. Interestingly, this wasn't the first orca sighting in recent days. Just yesterday, beachgoers had been thrilled to see a pod of orcas hunting close to shore. These weren't small animals. Each orca was as long as a school bus. The group moved together like a well-trained swimming team. Some dived deep, while others stayed near the surface. They were probably hunting for fish, bringing them close to shore. People stopped to watch them, and kids pointed at the water as the orcas showed off their swimming skills. The orcas stayed near the beach for several hours, and as the sun set, they swam back to deeper water. The beach visitors went home thinking they had seen something special. No one could have guessed that one of these orcas would be fighting for survival on the beach the following day. The local community quickly became attached to the stranded orca and named her Lucy. This wasn't just any sea animal. Orcas are among the smartest animals on Earth. Their brains are large and complex, similar to those of dolphins and chimpanzees. They can solve problems and remember things for many years. Orcas are such good hunters that scientists call them the wolves of the sea. They work in groups to catch food, sharing techniques with the younger ones in their pod. They're known to create waves to knock seals off ice floes and even beach themselves on purpose to catch prey. But only in places where they know they can slide back into deeper water. So how did such a smart animal end up stranded? The answer likely lay in the tricky coastal waters. When orcas hunt, they focused intensely on their prey. Lucy might have chased a fish into the shallows, not realizing how quickly the water level was decreasing. The changing tides could have trapped her, pushing her further onto the beach. Even with all their intelligence, orcas can't read tide charts or predict how sandbanks shift under the waves. However, the how was less pressing than the what now. Could Lucy be saved? This huge animal was built for swimming in deep ocean waters, yet she was stuck on dry land. In the ocean, orcas are some of the strongest animals alive. They can swim faster than Olympic champions and dive deeper than submarines. But Lucy couldn't use any of these abilities on the beach. As the morning went on, things got worse for the killer whale. The sun rose higher, shining down on her skin. Orcas have dark skin that absorbs heat quickly. This isn't a problem in the ocean because the water keeps them cool, but on the beach, it meant the orca was getting hotter. More and more people kept coming to the beach. Each person who arrived asked the same question: how can we help? The people knew they had to work fast. They formed a plan to keep the orca alive until they could figure out how to get her back in the ocean. Some ran to their homes and returned with buckets, filling them with seawater and pouring it over Lucy's body. This helped in two ways. It kept her skin wet and cool, and it reminded her body of being in the ocean. Others brought large sheets and towels, soaking them in seawater and draping them over the orca's body. As the hours passed, Lucy's condition worsened. Orcas have smooth, rubbery skin that needs to stay wet. Even with people constantly pouring water over her, her skin dried out. Her breathing changed too. At first, she had been breathing steadily, but as time went on, her breaths became faster and more shallow. It looked like she was struggling to get air. Her eyes changed as well. Orcas have big, expressive eyes that seem almost human-like. When Lucy first beached, her eyes were alert as she looked around at the people, but now she looked dull and unfocused, as if she were getting too tired to notice what was happening around her. Seeing the orca get worse made everyone work even harder. Those who had come to the beach just to watch now joined in to help. Some grabbed buckets and joined the line of people bringing water from the ocean. Others helped hold the wet sheets in place to keep the sun off. Kids helped too. Some made trips back and forth to nearby stores, bringing bottles of water for the volunteers to drink. Others helped organize the supplies people brought, making sure everything was easy to find when needed. The rescuers knew they needed a better plan. They couldn't just keep pouring water on the orca forever. She needed to get back into the ocean and swim. But how could they move something so heavy? An adult orca can weigh as much as 6 tons, about the same as a large elephant or a big truck. No matter how strong or hard the people pushed, they couldn't move the orca back into the water by themselves. Their first plan seemed like it would work. A local fishing boat offered to help tow Lucy back to sea. The idea was simple. Attach ropes to the boat, wrap them carefully around Lucy, and pull her into deeper water. The boat captain was ready, and the ropes were in place. However, nature had other ideas. When they tried to implement this plan, the sea wasn't calm that day. Waves kept crashing against the shore, pushing the boat back every time it tried to get close enough. The boat captain tried 3 different approaches, but the waves forced him to pull back each time. If the boat got too close to shore, it might also get stuck on the sand, which would cause 2 problems instead of 1. The ropes were another problem. Lucy's skin, usually protected by water, was sensitive. The ropes might cut into her, like a tight rubber band around your finger. Even if they managed to position the boat perfectly, pulling her could cause serious harm. No one was willing to take that risk. After the boat plan failed, the team moved on to their second idea. Someone suggested digging a channel in the sand like a small river leading from Lucy to the ocean. The plan made sense. Create a path where water could flow and help Lucy float. 20 people grabbed shovels and started digging, but the sand wouldn't cooperate. As fast as they dug, the sides of the channel collapsed, filling it back in. It was like trying to dig a hole at the beach near the water. The sand kept sliding back into the hole. They tried making the channel wider, but the same thing kept happening. Even in the sections where they managed to keep the channel open, they faced a bigger problem. The water flowing through wasn't strong enough to help move Lucy. Both rescue attempts failed, but these failures taught the team something important. They couldn't fight against nature. They needed to work with it. This realization led the team to devise their final plan: wait for the high tide. This made the most sense. The water would help lift Lucy's weight when the tide rose naturally. Meanwhile, they could keep her skin wet and cool. Once the water got deep enough, Lucy could use her strength to swim. This plan was safer and worked with nature instead of against it. Time was running out, though. The longer Lucy stayed on land, the more dangerous it became for her. But there was another big worry. Orcas live in families called pods, and they never leave each other. A pod is like a super close family that stays together their whole lives. The mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and even grandparents all swim together, hunt together, and protect each other. They even have their own special sounds they use to talk to each other, like their own secret language. Lucy's family was probably swimming somewhere nearby in the deeper water, waiting and calling for her. Orcas get really upset when they can't be with their pod. The rescue team could see how worried Lucy was. Sometimes she would make sounds, probably trying to call back to her family. This is why everyone was working so fast. They knew Lucy needed to get back to her pod soon. Some of the rescue team experts also knew that if they could get Lucy back to deep water, her pod would help her. Orcas are known to support sick or hurt family members, swimming close to them and even pushing them up to the surface to breathe if they need help. But first, they had to get Lucy off the beach. If their plan didn't work, Lucy might never see her family again. However, as the hours dragged on, it became clear the whale was giving up. At first, her movements grew still as she tried to right herself. Her breathing became shallow. The crowd watched in anguish, silent, many wiping away tears. It seemed that despite their best efforts, they would witness a tragedy. Then, as the tide began to come in, the first waves reached Lucy's tail. Suddenly, there was movement. Her tail twitched. This small sign told everyone that Lucy wasn't giving up. She had been conserving her energy, waiting for the water to return. The rescue team saw their chance. As more water flowed around Lucy, they began to gently rock her body. This motion helped the water flow underneath her and showed her which way led to deeper water. Orcas can sense water movement, and Lucy could feel which direction would take her back to the ocean. At first, nothing seemed to change. The team kept steady with their rocking motion. Then, slowly, Lucy began to respond. She started moving with the water's flow, using her tail to test the best way forward. She wasn't thrashing or panicking. She was working with the rescuers, using the incoming tide to help lift her body. This careful coordination between Lucy and the rescue team showed exactly why orcas are considered one of the smartest animals in the ocean. Most wild animals would panic if humans tried to touch them, but not Lucy. She seemed to know that all these people on the beach were trying to save her life. When the rescuers pushed gently on one side, she moved that way. When they guided her toward deeper water, she tried to follow their lead. It was as if she understood what they wanted her to do. The volunteers, now waist-deep in the surf, pushed and pulled, trying to guide her toward freedom. It was exhausting, dangerous work. One wrong move could result in injury from the whale's powerful flukes. But no one was willing to give up. Finally, after several hours, Lucy reached a depth where she could swim freely. There was a moment of tense silence as everyone waited to see what would happen next. The whale floated for a moment, seemingly unsure. Then, with a powerful stroke of her tail, she surged forward. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, many embracing each other in joy and relief. But the orca wasn't done surprising them. Instead of immediately swimming out to sea, she circled back, approaching the shore where the volunteers stood. For a heart-stopping moment, some feared she might beach herself again. But she stopped short, her dorsal fin cutting through the water as she swam parallel to the beach. Then, she did something amazing. She launched her entire body out of the water, spinning in midair. This move, called breaching, is something orcas do to communicate with each other. Lucy's leap wasn't just for show. She was telling her rescuers in her pod that she was okay. When an orca breaches, they use their powerful tail to push themselves entirely out of the water. For Lucy to do this after being stranded showed how much strength she had regained. Each leap sent water splashing everywhere, like a giant cannonball at a pool. The crowd gasped and cheered with every jump. Lucy breached 3 times. Each jump was like a victory celebration. Orcas are among the few animals known to celebrate and play just because they're happy. They are also one of the only species, besides humans, that teach their young how to play. Lucy was showing everyone a perfect example of orca joy. After her jumps, Lucy started swimming toward deeper water. Her movements showed everyone that this wasn't just luck. She knew exactly where she was going. Orcas have an internal compass that helps them navigate the ocean. They can remember routes and locations for years, passing this knowledge down through their pod. As Lucy swam farther out, people could see her tall dorsal fin cutting through the water. A dorsal fin can be as tall as a grown person, and each orca's fin is slightly different, like a fingerprint. The crowd watched until they could no longer see her fin, knowing she was heading back to her family pod. As the adrenaline of the rescue faded, the reality of what they had accomplished began to sink in. Strangers hugged, laughed, and cried together. They had united as a community and saved a life against incredible odds. In the days that followed, the story of the orca's rescue spread far beyond the shores of Marlborough Beach. It made national news, and then international news. Marine biologists studied the incident, amazed by the whale's apparent understanding and cooperation during the rescue. From a dire situation on a New Zealand beach to a triumphant return to the ocean, this orca's story is a testament to the extraordinary things that can happen when people come together to help an animal in need. It's a reminder that sometimes the most incredible moments in life are the ones we never saw coming. What do you think about this amazing rescue? Have you ever witnessed or participated in an animal rescue? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, turn on notifications, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible animal stories.